And so, my dear ones, here we are, looking to be impressed, wanting to be impressed, knowing that anyway we're always impressed. Every single one of us is impressed all the time by something or another, some idea or thought or feeling or another, some situation or another, some event or another. It happens naturally all of the time. You and I are being impressed. But the most powerful impression of all we're looking at today, which is the power of impressive thought and impressive feeling. And we're talking about having our consciousness impressed by our experiences of life and how we respond to them. So the question for you and for me this week is to focus on what is impressing me just now. What am I thinking about constantly now? What am I feeling about constantly now? What am I focused on constantly now? What am I fascinated by constantly now? Because whatever all of that is, it's projecting the experiences of my life out there in my reality. My life is a projection of my consciousness, and my consciousness is absolutely influenced by the thoughts I'm thinking and the feelings I'm feeling, and the energy I operate in. Now, all of us experience attractor energies. There are attractor energies within myself, within you, within everything. And you and I are here today to remember that we have to keep an eye on our energy system and what is going on in our energy field. And our energy field is greatly influenced by our thinking and by our feeling. The thinking and feeling coming from within ourselves and the thinking and feeling coming from outside of ourselves and around us. You and I are deeply influenced by that, either consciously or subconsciously. Today is all about understanding how the subjective or subconscious mind or the inner, deeper, interior mind works. And that's what we have to pay very close attention to. And we need to use our conscious mind to do that. Because the conscious mind is what delivers messages to the subconscious mind. And when those messages are delivered, they are responded to. My life responds to me every single second of my life. And the way it responds to me is through corresponding through my energy field, my thinking field, my feeling field. It responds to that. That's what the whole creative process is about. Every single thought is creative. And every deliberate, conscious thought is an act of creation, an intense act of creation. The next time anybody asks you, what do you do? The correct answer is, I create. I am a creator. That's your answer. That's what you do. It's the only thing you do. And out of doing that, everything else follows. Everything else follows. But your first thing that you do is you create, and I create too. And therefore, what we are creating, you need to know and I need to know, is the result of what I'm thinking, what I'm imagining, what's going on in me, what I'm picturing, what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling. And we're going to hear this over and over again not until we get it, but until we start applying its wisdom to our lives and work upon the knowledge that we have and from the intelligence that we have to ensure that what we're thinking and what we're feeling is animating our lives. We are energy fields. We are fields of energy. I am a point of energy in the great energetic field of it all, as are you, a point of light, a point of energy. But that point is so powerful, it can allow all the full force of the animating energy of all of life to flow through it if I am in cooperation with the creative process of life. So there's a name for this energy in every culture. We just call it energy. I mean, in China, they call it chi. In India, they call it prana. In Hawaii, they call it mana. In Ireland, they call it bio. And you'll find a name for this in Judaism, it's called ruah. And you'll find a name for this everywhere in any culture, for this thing called energy, animation. You're an animated expression of the divine. I know we don't always feel animated. God knows sometimes we feel quite the contrary. And that's why we say, it's so astounding to us when we look at people and they say, oh my God, isn't she animated today? And then you think to yourself, gosh, what am I like every other day of the week? I mean, once in every 6 months, if you're lucky, maybe somebody will say that to you, and you think, oh, what I've been doing for the last 6 months. Where's my animation been? You see. So life is about this animated thing, and it's so much bigger and so much larger than your life and my life, because we are just that point of power in all of life, yet a very significant and very powerful point of power. Why? Because there is this energy, this power for good in the universe greater than I am, and it uses me, and I can use it. It uses me as its expression. And I can use it for my good and the good of all. I can direct it. And it's called amazing grace. And it fills each and every one of us. Amazing grace is what the chi is, and the prana is, and the shakti is, and all of that. But it's the one thing, and as I even speak about it, I can feel it tingling in me. I don't always feel it tingling in me, but I do at times. And you'll feel the tingle of that power in you when you're feeling elated and also when you're enraged. But when you're enraged and you use that power, then we're using it on the deadening side of life, on the negative side of life. And guess what? It'll come right back to us. Why? Because whatever goes out from you and from me, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever it is that goes out from you and me comes back to us, pressed down and spilling over. That's the boomerang effect of life. It goes out, it comes back. What you put in, you get out. What you sow, you reap. What you present returns to you. And so we have to be very careful in the way we're thinking, in the way we're feeling, in the way we're coping with life and with living. And this is our opportunity now to get it straight once and for all, and to take ourselves by the ears. Can't take the bull by the horn because we're not bulls, but we take ourselves by the ears, we face ourselves down, we look into ourselves, and we say it like it is. Listen, you have screams within you that you have never screamed. You have tears within you that you have never shed. You have resentment in you that you have never released. You have sadness in you that you have never felt. And until you do, you cannot allow the chi, the shakti, the amazing grace, the bio, whatever you want to call it, to express itself fully through you. So if you have screams, prepare to scream them now. Please not here. If you have tears, prepare to shed them now, etc., etc., etc. We get the idea, because all of that is stopping and blocking us from being that channel of grace and channel of peace and channel of intelligence and channel of light and love and peace and beauty, and power and goodness and kindness and compassion, and all of the things that you and I have imprinted upon us in our spiritual DNA. I'm telling you, you're loaded with it. You're flushed with it. You're full of it, this amazing grace, this thing called life, this thing called godliness. The divine itself chose to take up residence within you and with me for whatever reason. It decided it. you were found to be a worthy vessel. Now remember, it doesn't matter how cracked a vessel might be, how discolored a vessel might be, the elixir within it is always the same in its pristine state and condition and perfect in every way. And that elixir is within the most broken life, debauched life, whatever kind of life you and I may have created for ourselves through the projection of our thinking, through the projection of our imagination, through the projection of our feeling and our idea of what life is all about. Because whatever my conception of life is, it will correspond to me from that conception. Now that's a sobering thought for those of us who are inclined to think on the dark side of life. But we must always be on the bright side of life, to stay on the bright side of life. Now, I'm making light of this because it is light. It's light. And that's the energy that goes with it, you know, the light side. You're not going to be dragging yourself down and crawling all over the place and telling yourself how you have no energy and I don't know how I'm going to get through the rest of the day and really I need to go to bed and have a snooze and a rest and a sleep. And going to bed for a snooze and a rest and a sleep is just running away from what's going to be facing you when you get up out of the bed anyway. There it is. Again, you have to take yourself by the ears, see if there's any difference. No, it's still there. Maybe I didn't scream enough. Maybe I didn't cry enough. Maybe I didn't release the sadness enough. Maybe I still have a lot of resentment that has to go. You know, Jean Houston, and I love what she says, you know, you've got to tell the story of your life, okay. You get to tell the story of your life authentically, with all the heart and feeling that you can muster up. Tell the story of your life to somebody who cares, actually cares. But, she said, the terrible things that are in your life that you deeply resent, the wounds in your life, must come in the middle of the story and never at the end. That all belongs to the middle of the story, but the end can be a wonderful, wonderful ending if you do what you have to do, and I have to do, is to release whatever it is stopping us and blocking us and so on. And however we're going to do that, we just have to be open to divine providence with regard to how that can happen. Whether it's telling our story authentically to somebody who really cares, whether it is journaling, whether it is breathing, whether it is dancing, whether it is singing, whether it is whatever it is that helps us to loosen up all of that stuff and junk that we have piled into ourselves over our lifetime, however young, however old that is. And for the youngsters, you can start early shoveling that stuff out and not be carrying around these, really junkyards on your back all the time. And some of us even graveyards. Dreadful, living in the dead past. But anyway, whatever that is, if you and I are open to that in this coming time, we will be led, we will be guided, we will be nurtured, we will be nourished, we will be taken into that amazing grace that is a safe state to be in, and we will be allowed to reveal those wounds, whatever they are, so that they can be healed, so that you can move on. So that for once in your lifetime, you can feel unburdened and unbowed. How do we do that? Well, the great Florence Scovel Shinn says what we learn to do is we learn to cast the burden of whatever it is that ails us upon the Christ within so that we can go free of it. That's what we call surrendering to the divine. I release, we sing it, I release and I let go and I let God. But do we? That's a great load to blow. We sing all kinds of beautiful things. But really and truly, as soon as we go through those doors, we've forgotten what we're singing. We really do have some beautiful songs that we sing. And remember, singing takes us out of the three dimensions and at least into the fourth dimension and is a higher range of energy and can indeed be a great healing blessing in our lives. It's good to sing. It's good to dance. Many of the great saints sang and they danced their way to God. And they sang the praises of God. Naked, we were told, David danced around the Ark of the Covenant. Well, Yeah, that's a pretty picture. I told God, don't ever ask me to dance naked in front of a tabernacle. I'm not going to do it. I feel like my aunt, who was a nun since heck was a pop, for 65 years or something, and then they got to modify their habits and so on, and she said, you know what, sweet Jesus Lord, when I was young, I gave my youth and beauty to you, and you took it. I'm not revealing what's left now. I'm staying in the habit. I'm staying in the habit. And she did. And she did. She had a little modified veil. You could see a lovely quiff of hair. And boy, did she take care of the quiff, too. She had her pride still. At 80, whatever she was when I last met her in San Antonio, Texas. She was there. She came over here when she was 15, and she was there until she passed on in Texas. God help us all. The heat. I'm just thinking of the heat and a black habit. That doesn't make a pretty picture. Thank God you didn't call me to San Antonio, Texas when I was wearing 10 yards of black serge. Thank you. I can hardly put up with humidity here at the moment. Isn't God good? Anyway, coming back to you and your life right here and right now, your life, your precious life, your divine life, your sacred life, your individualized, unique, and one and only of its type life. What are you doing to it right now? How are you impressing it right now? How does it make you feel to be you right now? What is that all about, Alfie? Or do we care even? Do we even care what it's all about? Are we in survival mode too much of the time when we have a power and a presence and a sweetness and the lusciousness of the divine who longs for our invitation to come? I stand at the door and knock, and if anybody opens it up, I will come, and I will sit and I will sup, and I will be the light and the presence and the grace and the love and the intelligence that will shine through you and take you out of your conundrums, out of your problems, out of your ailments, into the life I had in store for you. But no, you had to go and mess it up and decide you wanted something other than the best. Does that make sense? Well, we see it in our children, don't we? Parents saying, I'm only telling you for your good, and yet, and even so, look at the way you're behaving yourself. It's not good. It's not going to lead to some good place, and so on and so forth, etc. There's something in us that knows we're sovereign, that knows we get to choose, and darn it, we're going to choose it anyway. But on the other hand, George Bernard Shaw says it's better to live a life of mistakes. It is more honorable and useful than not living a life at all, because we can learn from our mistakes. So where are you and what you are allowing to impress your precious life that is ailing you in some way? And it's always from the outside that triggers something on the inside. What is it? Is it your work, your job, your boss, your spouse, your children, your mother, your father, whatever it is, the weather? What is it that's upsetting you, that's taking away from you your sense of that lovely idea that I have a power for good within me, and I can call upon it, and I can use it to move me through any situation or circumstance that comes to me, if I allow it. The scriptures say God awaits your availability. Your availability. God never withholds a thing from us. It's all given. It's already been given. It's already available to us. It's our reluctance to trust that much, to have that kind of faith, to know that no matter what it is, I can move myself through it, not by myself, but by the power and the grace and the presence that fills me, is around me and about me and available to me at all times. Our God is a very real and present help. But remember what your mother used to tell you, as did mine. God helps those who help themselves, child. And so it's a two-way street. I have to open and actively engage myself in a relationship with my source, not just Easter and Christmas or whenever the high holy holidays are for whatever kind of faith I happen to say I have. But at all times, in all situations, the invitation, come. Maranatha, come, come. Maranatha, come. Come, come, sweet Spirit, and be the thinking in my mind and the feeling in my heart and the only activity in my body so that my soul can soar and do what it's here to do, to praise and laud and applaud all of life, all of creation, to animate it all, to raise it all up, to bless it all up by being the animated blessing that I am created to be. Do we get that? Yes. Do we want that? Yes. Will we be that? Yes. When? Now. And so it is.